All right. Okay, so Oscar, um, guys, thank you very much for joining the next episode of the podcast. In this episode, I'm interviewing Oscar. Oscar works in a very interesting industry, and he's going to give us some insight today on what he does and give us some insight into his background and his formation as a person, and then share some of his opinions with us. So, Oscar, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, Steven. Thank you for this opportunity to share my personal things and my knowledge in oil industry, So I'm Oscar Ginsaca. I work in the oil and gas industry around 16 years. So I'm electromechanical engineer, and I work as electrical engineer and project manager as well.
Okay, cool, cool. Okay. So, Oscar, let's start with just a little bit about the oil industry. How has the oil industry evolved in the 16 years that you have been in the industry? What changes have you seen, and what, like, perhaps application of new technology have you seen?
Um, uh, I have the opportunity to work in a very important company, SLB. This company develop a lot of new innovation for the oil and gas industry. So, but mainly I work in the construction projects, and all my 16 years of experience is I was dedicated in this business line. So, but I work uh, close with other business like drilling, production, and treatment processes of the oil. So, and mainly I work to build new surface facilities for oil and gas industry.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the installation of the equipment to drill and create new wells. Is that what you're saying?
My mainly function is it's to build new facilities in surface, you
Right,
know.
right. So
To,
what could these facilities be? Like, describe these facilities.
okay. My team and I built different surface facilities from wellhead to main pipelines to transport or to transfer oil.
Ah, gotcha. So you're talking about the actual pipelines that go
Yeah.
from, I got it. Cool. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. Then in few terms, the process is the way to process the oil. It's to from wellheads. It's where the oil leaves with ESP. ESP is electrical subsurface pump.
Submersible pump. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the surface, the oil needs to be traded, So different facilities like separators, cable drums, um, tanks, pump transfer. Basically, this is the way to treat the oil. If you let me,
Sure.
I
Sure.
will,
Please.
I will show maybe a picture
Yeah. Yeah.
which I can explain
Because
in the
I'm visualizing what you're saying, but seeing a picture would be better.
yeah picture. The picture will be
So,
better.
so you're responsible for creating all of this infrastructure.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's right. That's right.
that's interesting.
Check some images.
And so, Oscar, how long have you been doing this specific or having this role?
This moment, I will construction leader.
Okay.
I'm in charge to work with my team to build these new facilities in
Okay.
the for oil industry in my country, Ecuador.
Okay.
So we are develop different surface facilities to process the oil and gas.
Okay. So I imagine you have architects and engineers working,
Mainly engineers,
mainly engineers.
mainly engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, electronic engineers, and chemical engineers as well. So we are a multidisciplinary team which is in charge to build new facilities.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but our team maybe is around 20, 25 people between Quito team and field team.
Okay.
Mainly the field team is in charge to deploy all these type of infrastructure
Ah,
in
okay.
field. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I try to show you a very illustrated picture, but I can find. Okay,
All right.
let me share
Okay.
screen.
Yeah. Mhm.
Could you see the picture?
Yeah. 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 So I
Yeah.
see tanks, like you said. I see
Yeah.
pumps, like
Separators.
separators. Okay.
This is a manifold.
Okay.
This is a wellhead.
Ooh,
Wellhead.
okay.
This equipment is in the surface, and through this wellhead, the oil is pumped from subsurface to surface.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And the main point of arrive of this oil it's manifold. After this manifold, this when you pump oil, there are three components: water, oil, and gas.
Right.
And we have separators in these equipments. These three components are separate: oil, gas, and water. So gas generally it's burned in flare stacks like this.
Okay, so why is that gas not captured and used?
No, there are many projects where this gas is
Oh,
used.
okay. Okay. But in some projects, it's burned.
Yeah. In Ecuador, generally, this gas is used to generate electricity.
Ah, cool, cool. Okay.
Right. So, and this gas is used to generate energy mainly in Ecuador.
Okay.
And we have other type of separators, and the water generally is separate oil and water. So through there are other type of equipment like integrated reciprocating compressors to trade gas. You know, in this type of equipment, gas is straight,
Okay.
and we have tanks. There are tanks for water and oil, and in these tanks, oil and water is storage in different parts.
Okay. And now, is that water contaminated? Can it be?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Definitely, it's water. This water come from subsurface.
right.
Definitely, it's a water bad water could be, so
Yeah.
not the good state.
So what happens to that water?
This water, uh, he- in the field where I'm working, this water have two ways to use. The first one is this water is reinjected to
Okay.
other wells,
Ah, okay. Okay.
reinjector wells.
Okay.
So the water is reinjected in these wells through through subsurface, and this water is also used to produce more oil with other type of other process to produce more barrels. This type of system is injection system. So
Okay.
it's a way to increase production
Uh-huh.
in all field
Okay.
because with the type of system you can increase the pressure in subsurface
Gotcha.
to this increase of pressure helps other wells to produce in the better way. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
and there are tanks only on oil for oil,
Right.
and this oil is dispatched or transferred through pumps transfer. This uh, this this uh this picture shows pump transfer, and this oil is transferred to other stations
Right.
or Ecuador Sote. I know you hear before Sote. I don't know if you remember this name Sote. Sote is it's a main pipeline. This pipeline is this pipeline gets to Esmeraldas,
Okay.
are dispatch oil different buyers,
Wow. Wow. Interesting. That is really, really interesting. I mean, I knew a little bit about the actual physical process of getting and extracting oil, but I didn't know about the infrastructure and the machinery. So
Yeah,
this
so,
is really
so
interesting.
my team and I in field in Auca, I work in Auca field. I'm in charge to build different infrastructures like this.
Mm-hmm.
Also
Cool. Cool.
separate.
So now I see why you need engineers and not architects, because now who builds the infrastructure, the living space for the people in the field? Is that
Yeah,
also?
in these cases, we work with architects,
Okay,
architects
right,
and
right.
and engineers as well.
Okay, so you work on all types of infrastructure construction, but specifically this part.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
specifically
Okay.
this type of installations or facilities are dedicated to process oil, you know.
Nice. Nice. That's a lot of responsibility, Oscar.
Yeah, but
Man.
it's a great word. I like this type of work. I work in this 16 years, so I'm happy to work in this type of
I imagine.
challenging environment, So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Without a
very
doubt.
yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Well, if you're finished, you can stop sharing your screen and we can have yeah. So I have a question about this, Oscar. What happens after you extract all the oil from an underground oil pool? Is it called an oil pool or a reservoir? A, an underground oil.
Mm. I don't know. I don't know much about that because it's not my main domain, So subsurface is other type of domain in which works other type of engineers like geological engineers,
Geological engineers, yeah.
geophysicals, petroleum engineers. So it's other type of domain. I work with them but I sometimes I try to understand this type of technology or knowledge behind that, but definitely it's not my main domain.
Okay. So really, because this is a curiosity that I have,
Yeah,
after you extract all the oil, what happens in that space? Because for me, perhaps the ground compresses and it creates a sinkhole on the surface.
yeah. I know that for instance, when a well finish its life, this well must be must be abandoned,
Hmm.
and there are many techniques to seal this well.
Mm,
And this technique is with cementing.
wow. Okay. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So when the well ends its life, this well must be
Of course,
cemented.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
So Oscar, let's go in a different direction, but in the same topic. Okay, so
Okay.
in 2024, there are many people, organizations, individuals who are trying to promote the idea of an oil-free, fossil fuel-free world, right? A world without fossil fuels. There is a belief that fossil fuels are bad for not only the environment, but also humans. There are many studies coming out about microplastics, which are particles, microscopic particles of plastic and other materials made from fossil fuels that we inhale or that we ingest and that are in our bodies and how these affect our bodies. So my question for you is, how do you see this? As a person in the industry, what is your perspective on oil, right? Is it a good thing? Is it a necessary thing? Is it a bad thing? It's a complex topic, but I want you to give me your view of oil and the oil industry.
A couple of years, maybe 20, maybe from since 2020, different big oil companies is trying to change the direction, so to produce oil, and they are trying to change the way to produce energy, so with new technology, with new innovation, especially. In respect to your question, I think oil is necessary. In It's necessary because the humanity or all world as we know will be impossible to follow the daily activities, So, and definitely oil and other type of source to produce energy are necessary. And I think with new with new innovations at technology, I think the oil industry mainly will will be able to produce energy in with more responsibility, so for the environment especially. So, for instance, my company or SLB a couple of years ago changed its vision to work. Now SLB it's a global company, and we are working with new companies which develop new technologies, especially uses artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Right.
So, and I think it's a good first step to change the way to produce energy nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I have worked with several people in SLB, and each of them has had different roles. And I have worked with one previous student who actually worked with the automation of field operations, right? Instead of depending on engineers with clipboards, writing numbers and looking and recording information, they work to automate that process and to collect data using AI algorithms. And I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible. It's becoming more efficient. Um,
Yeah,
absolutely. So, Oscar, here in the US, there's a big political situation developing around energy. Um, like I mentioned before, some organizations in the world, like the WEF, uh, are projecting a world where we abandon oil or we stop using oil. But and some presidents and some political parties are aligned with this idea, right? For example, in the United States, the Democrats and Joe Biden are aligned with this idea of getting away from fossil fuels and going to renewables instead. But then you have a candidate like the former President Trump, and one of his campaign promises to the public is that he is going to unlock American energy because Joe Biden has stopped oil production or drastically reduced it in the US. And Donald Trump tells the public that this is ridiculous because the United States has a lot of oil and we need to access this oil. And this is the solution to our economic problems. So obviously, I'm ignorant to this. I only hear these two narratives. So, Oscar, what is your view on that, on this situation and these narratives? Do you think that the United States should try to access the oil that it has through fracking or other means, offshore drilling or whatever? Or do you think that it's better to try to move towards away from oil and towards renewables?
I think that US should take advantage of this resource, but at the same time, with these profits, US should invest in new ways to produce energy, like wind energy, solar energy, and thermal energy, you know. I think it is necessary to have money to invest in other type of sources.
Right.
So I think the two things are important, but I think if you don't have money, you can't invest or invest in other type or sources to produce to produce energy, you know. So I
Right.
think it's important to develop both both topics, you know. So it's
Okay.
necessary. Money is necessary, and if US have this type of resources to develop to get this money, for me, it's a smart way to get money.
Okay. Okay. Um, and tomorrow we will be having a debate or discussion with Danny about whether the state or private companies should control oil in different countries. And that's going to be a very interesting conversation tomorrow. So, Oscar, I agree with you with what you just said. My question is using oil to prosper as a society immoral, or is it a necessary evil? I mean, if we stop using oil, which, people would die, I believe, if we stopped using oil, if we stopped using this source of energy, our giant Earth population would not be able to sustain the energy needs with renewable energy. So my question is, how will this, for you, the next question is, how will this movement, this global trend of moving away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy, how will that affect developing countries like Ecuador, who generate a large part of their GDP from oil? How will that impact? How will this movement away from fossil fuels impact developing countries who largely depend on those incomes?
Yeah, for Ecuador will be terrible
Right.
because petroleum it's our main source of economy, So
Right.
uh, I don't know exactly, but I think maybe petroleum could be the 60% or 65% of all this I don't know 60 or 65% the way to get money for Ecuador,
The
So
income. Yeah,
yeah,
the GDP.
income.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for Ecuador will be terrible, definitely. So, and I think in other countries happen the same because, for instance, Venezuela, I know that Venezuela lives of petroleum incomes, So, and there are many countries around the world, worldwide, that produce petroleum, and it's the main way to get incomes
That's
for,
right.
for them.
So,
Yeah.
so Oscar, right now, there is a debate. Some people who are on the right and are a little bit more conservative are accusing these organizations that are globalist organizations like the WEF. They're accusing these people of trying to enforce um, this anti-fossil fuel idea in developing nations. They're trying to promote getting away from fossil fuels. They're promoting this. They're saying you should stop using fossil fuels. And there are critics of this who say this is very hypocritical because Europe and the United States and Canada used fossil fuels to have the explosion of industry and development. So how is it possible that these developed nations now want to tell the underdeveloped nations that you shouldn't use the same strategy that we used to prosper? You shouldn't do it because it's bad for the environment. And I agree. I think it's very hypocritical for the United States and the organizations that promote this idea of moving away from fossil fuels. If Ecuador cannot depend, if Ecuador, if the income from fossil fuels decreases in Ecuador, that is literally a loss of human life. People will, that's a massive, you said 60% of income. Imagine losing that. That's a massive, you're talking about putting the entire nation in serious, serious economic crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you think, Oscar, that these globalist organizations that are promoting this fossil-free future are ignoring the economic necessities of underdeveloped nations and being a little bit hypocritical when these big, powerful nations used fossil fuels to become successes? What do you think about that? This is controversial.
Yeah. I think this type of groups should think in different, just in this type of things, that there are places where oil is the main it's the main way to get money for different countries, like mm, especially small countries like Ecuador. Yeah, so I think this type of groups don't think about overall perspective, you know. So they are very criticisms to big countries like US or China or European countries. So yeah, I think this type of countries could help to stop all producers to produce energy, you know. So, but it's something controversial because if big countries like US or China don't want to stop to produce energy with oil sources, leave Ecuador, you know, is leave Ecuador because it's our main it's our main
Obviously. But
to
Oscar, for me, what this I think that they do understand this. You say I don't think they see the big picture. I don't think they understand. I
yeah.
believe they do, but I believe that their mission is depopulation. Their mission is to reduce the human population. So I think that this is one way. They don't see poor Ecuadorians and poor Venezuelans as people. And I know that that sounds terrible. What I'm saying, it sounds terrible, but they see them as a number. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a number. It's a number on a piece of paper. We need to decrease this number and increase this number. So the environmental movement, the climate change movement, in many ways is anti-human, right?
Mhm.
Because what you're saying essentially is that humans destroy the environment. So the logic is to save the environment, we need to fix the human problem, right? So, and I think this is a very dangerous thing. And these globalist um, organizations have many ideas that are anti-human.
I,
So,
I don't know, but maybe I think sometimes I think that there are many interestings behind that, behind this type of groups, you know, other interests, you
like
know. So
financial interests or what?
could be, could be, could be because when you are only in favor of one side, and it doesn't matter what happened with other side, especially human lives. It's I think it's because this only side is interesting in only thing and maybe could be financial things, you know.
Oh,
So
of course. It's always financial.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, it's it is the same, Stephen. Money is behind
everything,
everything,
everything.
everything. Yeah, same. Yeah.
And that's the problem, if you ask me. That's the problem in our species is that and this is true for the private and public sector, right? It appears that our leaders and politicians prioritize money more than humans. And it appears that industries prioritize profit and money over humans, right? And we can see this with food in the food industry, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you can see they don't care about your health, right?
this is a perfect example.
It is. It is. And so here in the United States, you see a lot of obesity, right? And when you see this, I literally, when I see and I am overweight, so I am not criticizing people who are obese. I am overweight, and I'm trying to correct this. But in the US, there is a lot of abundance and prosperity. We have Costco, And it's very easy to eat too much food. And
Yeah.
this is why you see a lot of obesity. And when I see this, I literally see people dying from prosperity and abundance. Abundance is killing you, right? So for me, this is it's a very serious social problem, and I don't see that this is getting corrected. But going back to what we were talking about previously, Oscar, what do you think the future of energy looks like in the next 50 years? Do you think that we will still be addicted to oil? Because right now we're addicted to oil. We need it. Our civilization needs it. But in 50 years, do you see the same thing, or do you see a different a different reality?
Um, I think, or I believe, could be both or two or three scenarios, you know. So mm, I would like that in the future the world could have different ways to produce energy, you know, wind, solar, hydrogen, hydroelectricity, and even nuclear, and
Yeah.
even yeah. So I personally I prefer this type of energy instead oil. Yeah. So, but I think all all these scenarios will depend of the decisions that big countries take in the future, you
Mhm.
know, make in the future, because uh, if the big countries uh, won't be aligned, will be very, very hard to get a good agreement
Possible.
to be responsible, you know.
Correct. It's
Most,
impossible. If
yeah,
if if only one country is saying, okay, let's use renewables, and all the other countries are saying no, fossil fuels, it's impossible.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's impossible. So I think we need a great agreement among these big countries.
Okay.
Maybe 10 or 50 big countries. I don't know, but I think it's necessary to have this agreement.
Okay.
Uh, and if this agreement is not possible, I think it will be a war. Like there is a movie. I don't remember its name. It's with Mel Gibson.
Okay.
Let me search, please.
Yeah. Is it like an apocalypse movie or something?
Yeah, yeah. It's with Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Ma-
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right. Let's hope that that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen, but I agree it could be something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
scary. So
Yeah.
Oscar, let's talk about that for a moment. Do you think that because it appears to me, in my ignorance, that certain organizations are trying to eliminate the idea of nations, nation states, right? Remember, after that colonial era, when the monarchies colonized the Americas and other parts of the world, you had countries like Ecuador and the United States that wanted independence from their monarchies, right? So they had revolutionary wars,
Mhm.
wars for independence. After independence, after these countries like the US and Ecuador obtain independence, they had an identity crisis because how do you make a society function without a leader? Before, we had a king. Before that, we had an emperor, the Inca emperor. So without a leader, how do you make society function? So this was the origin of nation states, the idea of democratic republics. But it appears that some organizations today are trying to eliminate the idea of democratic republics and nations and change this for one central power, one central government for the whole world. So essentially, no nations, right? No borders, one currency. Um, Everyone is connected. So you have presidents like the ex-president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, and the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who are on different sides politically. Correa is considered left and Trump is considered right. But the thing they have in common is that they are both nationalists. They are pro Ecuador or pro America, US.
Yeah.
And for the globalist organizations, the organizations that want a global central government, these leaders are a problem. And I believe that this is why both leaders, Trump and Correa, are being persecuted, and the current governments are trying to put them in prison, right? Joe Biden's government is trying to put Donald Trump in prison, and the political right in Ecuador has already put Jorge Glass in prison and wants to put Correa in prison. So perhaps there's no correlation. Okay, maybe it's because I see both situations and I see similarities. But my question for you, Oscar, is do you think that the world would be better with one central government without borders, no illegal immigration, no no massive inequality between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere? Or do you think the idea of nations is a better way to organize humanity and civilization?
I think that organization is necessary, definitely. So it, to me, it's like to be responsible, or even with that simple thing, mm, yeah, to be organized in your own life. It's necessary. And if we escalate these terms, I think that to be organized, or to have rules to manage anything, it's necessary to live better. So to be better in the lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, it's basically to have organization.
Okay.
So and because I think without organizations, everyone will do anything.
I
And
agree. But
yeah,
which is better of the two options that I gave you, Oscar?
to me, it's better to be organized. And if we
Right.
go,
But both options are organized, right? What I'm asking you is it better to have one global government and no nations, or is it better to have independent nations with presidents and parliaments and have a world with many nations? Or is it better to have a world with only one global nation?
many nations, I
Many
think,
nations. Okay.
yeah, many
Why?
nations,
Why do you say that?
because in the other options, we will be like a empire. So where only emperor rule the.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
That's
So
true. But think about it, right? right now, you're in Ecuador, I'm in the US. There's a very big difference between the economy
Mhm.
and security and different aspects of our societies.
Yeah.
Imagine if there was no Ecuador and there was no United States, and you could travel here and I could travel there. We don't need a passport. It's the same. We're all the same. We're the people of Earth, right? This is the globalist vision for the future,
Yeah.
right? So, do you think that nations are better? And why, Oscar?
That's a tricky question, really, because I think both type of organizations have advantage and
And
disadvantage.
bingo,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So I the idea or theories or philosophies behind of each side are positive, you know. The real problem is when the people want to apply searching their own interests. This is
Hmm.
the problem. It's like socialism or capitalism. To me, both have advantage and disadvantage as well. So
Hmm.
the problem is when the people apply this philosophy, searching their own benefit. This is
Mm.
this is the problem. So it is like socialism. I think socialism as philosophy has many good things, but the problem is when people or some leader apply this philosophy searching their own benefit. This
Hmm.
is the problem. This is the real problem for me.
Okay. So you identified a problem
Yeah.
in which model, in the one government model or the many nation model, do you think this problem would decrease?
Mm, no one,
Neither.
nothing, neither,
Yeah.
sorry, neither. Because I think when only one side is very high, the they begin to be like emperor, you know,
Right.
or
A
dictator.
king or a dictator.
Yeah,
That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, that's
it's up to me. It's almost impossible because when people or some leaders get a lot of power, they think that they are like a god, you know.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So and to me the problem is that.
So, Oscar, talking about this, let's continue one step more. I'm loving this conversation. So, right now, some countries are currently investing a lot in the research and development of AI. Specifically, the United States and China are investing a lot. This is a race, right?
Yeah.
They're both in, this is like a new, this is, often in economy, there are races like the space race. Remember between the Soviet Union and the United States to see
Ah,
who could go to space first?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
China and the United States are in a similar race to see who can develop the first AGI, artificial general intelligence. And this is the the first functional sentient AI. So right now they're both investing billions of dollars to try to get this. Um, this concerns me because smaller countries like Ecuador that aren't investing in AI research and development, because obviously there are other problems that require money and there is not enough money. For me, it seems like whoever, whether it's the United States or China, whoever is the first to create AGI, they will be the new emperor.
Mm,
And because that technology is so powerful. So, Oscar, how do you think AI will impact the social model? Do you think that AI will destroy nations and create, like one government, because if one government, let's say that the Chinese government develops the first artificial general intelligence, and they have this powerful, powerful tool that no other country has, almost like a nuclear bomb, a, a tool that's so powerful that if you don't have this tool, you cannot compete with this nation. How do you think that is going to impact the rest of the planet and people?
Mm, yeah, so definitely who 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 win this race will be the new leader. Yeah,
Right.
the new leader in the world. So I don't know. I don't know. I try to imagine how artificial intelligence will change our lives, but sometimes it's hard to dimension these changes, because it's something incredible,
Oh yeah.
So there are many examples, a lot of examples how to artificial intelligence will change our future.
Right.
And but I try to compare with the internet, So I try to compare because I believe this type of new tool could be similar to the internet, So, but internet changed the world as well, but definitely artificial intelligence will change everything as we know today.
That's right. That's right. I completely agree. Um, so, Oscar, I think that we can finish with this. I think, and I just want to propose this, and we can talk about this in another podcast, but I believe that we as a species are in a critical moment, because I believe that we are at the moment where our social model is shifting and we are moving into a type 1 civilization. So listen for just a moment to the physicist Michio Kaku explain what a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3 civilization are. And I
Okay.
believe that artificial intelligence will be the catalyst. The AGI will be the catalyst for humanity to become a type 1 civilization. And I think this is what we're experiencing right now. So check it out.
Okay.
This is a famous quote from, I think it was Einstein, where he said, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Do you ever worry that, the reason why, if it made sense that aliens would be here, it's because they want to stop us from blowing ourselves up. Do you ever worry that, we're so close to being able to figure out so many things, to be able to change all of your ideas, to be able to change the world fundamentally forever, but we could ruin it?
Yeah, well, I think we're headed toward what we physicists call a type 1 civilization, a civilization which has the power to self-annihilate for the first time, but also the possibility of becoming a planetary civilization, a civilization of the entire planet. That's called a type 1 civilization. They control the weather. They control volcanoes and earthquakes. They harness the power of the entire Earth. Then there's type 2. They harness the power of the sun. And, for example, Star Trek would be a typical type 2 civilization. They've colonized a fraction of the Milky Way galaxy. Then there's type 3. Type 3 would be galactic, that they roam the galactic space lanes. They use black holes as their power supply. They use wormholes to go zipping around the Milky Way galaxy. And the Empire of Star Wars would be a typical type 3 civilization. But what are we? On this scale, we are type 0.
Yeah.
We get our energy from dead plants. We settle our differences with weapons. And we're type 0, but you can see that we're headed toward type 1. The language of type 1 will be probably English. The dominant languages on the internet are English and Mandarin Chinese. And we're seeing the beginning of a type 1 sports, the Olympics and soccer. We're seeing the beginning of a type 1 fashion with Gucci and Chanel. The beginning of a type 1 music with rock and roll and rap and different trends. We're seeing the beginning of a type 1 civilization emerging right before our eyes. But with that is the power to self-destroy ourselves. Because we have the ability to use nuclear weapons, create designer germs, and mess up the weather. And so it's a race against time to see which trend will dominate. The trend toward becoming a planetary civilization versus the trend towards self-destruction.
It's fascinating that you think of culture as...
Okay, so Oscar, if you ask me, this is the reason that you have organizations that are against nationalist governments and presidents. Because these globalist organizations want humanity to enter this type 1 technological civilization. But nationalists and the idea of individual nations goes against this. Why? Because individual nations have conflict and perhaps can destroy each other through war. So I believe that these globalist organizations, the vision for the future is this type 1 model. And in order to get there, they have to eliminate nations and nation states. So this
But I understand. But in this process, the humanity could be disappear as well.
that's
With
absolutely right.
because we can have many nuclear wars in
Correct.
this process.
Correct. It's a very risky, dangerous thing. And this is why you have to question the actions of global organizations like the WEF and NATO. And you have to ask, why does NATO exist? Number one. And what is NATO helping or hurting the stability of the world? Right? And you have to ask yourself, what are the benefits of a global world? Is a global type 1 civilization that's connected and uses advanced technology, is that better than our current world with nations and conflicts? It sounds like a utopia, right?
Yeah.
But perhaps it's nothing more than a fantasy. So, Oscar, we'll end there. I think that's a hell of a podcast, man.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Steve.
One moment.